Let's go, Rider Nation.
I'm ready. I'm ready. Yeah, here we go. It's a feeling now. Hit 'em high, hit 'em low, 'cause we're dealing now. Everybody's giving it all they got, 'cause we're ready.
This is the Piffles Podcast, your Saskatchewan Roughriders fan podcast, and the only place outside of Montreal you're going to find a 3-0 team in the CFL. You sure ain't finding it 5 hours east of here in Winnipeg, and that makes me just as happy as the Edmonton Oilers losing the Stanley Cup final the other night.
Coming out hot. Woo.
I don't buy into the whole you got to cheer for a Canadian team thing. I don't buy that. I never have. I never will. And ultimately, I'm a fan of the game. I want the game to grow, the game to be as best as it could be. And it's better for a team in Florida, in Miami, to win. That's it.
And that is why it is good also that the Baltimore Stallions have a more recent Grey Cup victory than a Canadian team in the NHL as a Stanley Cup.
I hope that stat lasts forever. My favorite hockey day is if the Penguins win the cup. My second favorite hockey day is the day the last Canadian team is eliminated. Brings me joy every time.
We're going to talk football here, but while we're talking hockey, because I brought it up, out of all the 7 Canadian teams in the NHL, if one had to win, which one would you guys, should I say, want it to be, or at least be angry about it being?
I'm torn because immediately my answer would actually be the Vancouver Canucks. They've never won one.
Love Pavel,
in their long history. However, after Paul Maurice's very emotional post-game scrum, I kind of feel bad for the Winnipeg Jets.
Right?
Nothing. I will never, ever, ever cheer for a team in Winnipeg or hope that they succeed in any way. I hope Winnipeg goes 0-82, 0-18, whatever the metric is. Winnipeg can keep that L as long as they want. For me, it's the Canucks. I used to be good, but not used to be good buddies. I'm good buddies with a Canucks fan. Used to be roommates with him. He made me hate them a little less. I love to razz that they have no Stanley Cups, but if they won one, I would not be mad because I know people that it would make happy.
I'm gonna go off the board here, because I like chaos and because I want to see what it'd actually be like. I kind of want to see Toronto win it.
Oh,
just to see how unbearable life would be for literally everybody.
You know, I have the power to remove you from the stage now, right?
And I can, yeah.
He can add himself back in.
Okay, well, before you do that, we should probably start talking football here. This is your Saskatchewan Roughriders fan podcast. You can give us a follow on X at Piffles Pod. I'm at Real Alex D.
I'm at Safamod.
And as always, I do not need nor want your pity follows at Greg on Sports.
Check us out on Facebook as well. Website, pifflespodcast.com. Thanks for listening wherever you find your podcasts, watching on YouTube, watching on SaskTel Max TV on demand. Thank you very much. Of course, we appreciate that. And of course, Piffles Podcast is brought to you by our great friends at Dairy Queen on Elphinstone Street and Sask Drive in Regina. Oh, 3-0, just it feels so good. Let's talk about it. Let's get to the opening kickoff.
Before we do, we need to pour one out for Google Podcasts. How I miss you.
Are they gone now? Is it official?
They're officially gone. I lost all my podcast stuff, and I'm looking for a new podcast streaming app because I kept on hoping they would change their mind, but YouTube Music ain't it. So, to you, Google
they rest in
Podcasts.
peace.
Yeah.
Well, you ruined my segue.
Yes, I did.
I was saying, speaking of opening kickoffs, how about that opening kickoff on Sunday for the Riders, getting the fumble recovery from Hamilton, setting the team up right off the bat. Right then, I knew we got this. And sure enough, a couple of plays later, Sam Emilus gets a touchdown, which he actually fell on. So it just goes to show how perfect of a pass that was, keeping it a little bit low and away from the defender. But the Riders winning 36-20, moving their record to 3-0 going into the bye week. Where do you guys want to start?
As fast as the Riders did. Like, they came out ready to go.
Steve, you're on mute.
You should have told them.
Would have been the best episode ever if I was on mute the
I
entire
was
time.
wondering why I like the sound so much.
But yeah, no, they came out flying, and it was awesome, especially because Bertrand Houdin got basically dropped, got back up, and he was one that forced that fumble. So they came out ready to go, and you always worry about those back-to-backs, considering like you basically just punched each other in the mouths less than a week prior, that they're going to come out chippy, and the Riders just came out ready to go, and it was great. I hope they can carry that after the bye week.
You know, you wanted to start with the opening kickoff. I want to go a step before that and talk about the coin toss and Coach Mace's decision to defer to the second half and take the wind in the first quarter. Because Calgary took the ball. We took the wind in the first. Usually you see a team take
Hamilton.
the wind in the second or the
Hamilton.
fourth. Sorry, Hamilton. What did I say?
Calgary.
Calgary.
Oh, sorry.
Having
apparently
Bo
like
Levi
8 weeks ahead.
flashbacks or what?
Yeah, right.
They're a bunch
they
of
took
losers too.
They took the ball to start, so we had the choice of which side to defend. And usually teams take the wind in the second or the fourth to get that extra time that you get. But he took it in the first to ram the ball down Hamilton's throat. And we walked up with a 17-0 lead at the end of the first quarter. You can't ask for better than that. And I love the guts to do it because I didn't get it at first. Once I had time to process the game, I'm like, oh yeah, that was a smart ballsy call. Well,
let's go right off the bat. Just with the MLS touchdown. I was happy that it was MLS because the first couple games, him and Trevor Harris just didn't seem to be vibing together. Something was just off between them. He wasn't bad by any means. But I think our expectations for Sam Emilus are so high right now that the first couple games, disappointing isn't the right word for it, but it was leaning that way. We're like, what's going on? Where is he? How come we're not seeing more out of Emilus, right? But getting him the ball right off the bat and getting him that touchdown, just kind of getting the monkey off the back, was excellent. So hopefully they can keep building on that because we've seen Harris connect with Stearns quite often this season. KSB had that huge game last week, and the more that they can get, more guys involved, the more dynamic this offense becomes. And now that they apparently have a bit of a run game, it's just great stuff here for the Riders offense.
Well, who are you going to cover? You've got Bain Jr., you've got MLS, you've got KSB. Picton made catches when he needs to. You have Stearns out there. Joe, like I say, he's going to be a menace with that size and power and speed. Like, defenses are going to have to be very careful on if they even attempt to double team anyone because it's going to be really hard to do.
And you look at that receiving core, and then you have to match it with a running game that finally gets off the ground. And was it just me, or did it look like Ouellette was running pissed off from the very first rush? Like, he just had that extra gear that you've seen out of him in Toronto that almost felt like it was missing the first two games.
Yeah, the pressure.
He definitely had a different gear this week. It definitely felt that way.
Yeah, the pressure has been put on the run game after the first couple of weeks, especially after signing, the big free agent, right? So you want production, and we weren't getting it the first couple of weeks. We got it this past Sunday. Nearly 100 yards for Ouellette. Another 50 yards through the air. I liked how they were using him on a couple screen plays and swinging him out of the backfield. So that's an extension of the run game. And we talked about it here on this show last week. How are they going to, if the run game can't get going, how are they going to use the extension of the run game with screens and hitch passes and all that kind of stuff? So they're committing to it.
Even Radkovic had a few good plays out there swinging out from the backfield. So it's definitely something they're keeping in their arsenal, that's for sure.
I do want to hit on Joe with that touchdown because I don't care how raw this guy is. I don't care if his route running isn't polished yet to what most people want it to be. This guy makes plays. He deserves a ton of reps right now, and I think he should be way ahead of Mitch Picton on the depth chart. I've seen more out of a Joe in these 2 games he's played, 1.5 really, than I've seen from Picton in how many years. This guy is a physical freak. He's going to be a mismatch. If you can get him on a linebacker, it's lights out. Like this guy is a stud and a steal of a 7th round draft pick for the Riders this year. And thanks to Rob Vanstone, friend of the show, of course, for bringing up he's the first player in Rider history that's a 7th round draft pick that had a touchdown. So they just get him in there. He's got to get plenty of reps now.
Well, he was a highly touted high school prospect going to Clemson. Like that's a top tier school. Like he was always destined to be this big player, and he had some injury issues, and his game wasn't as polished as it should be. But like I said, he is going to be a menace in this league. Like, and his attitude and his personality
Him dancing
are exactly what this league needs.
The
He can play the
touchdown
piano.
dance where you had the fans doing the side to side. I realize people listening can't see me doing the motion, but he just has that type of attitude and personality that Saskatchewan will absolutely fall in love with and do so quickly. He seems like he's always got that smile. He just wants to be out there making plays. And every time he's on the field, he's doing something positive. I don't think we can say enough about this guy and how he should quickly build his way up that depth chart, because he does belong ahead of Mitch Picton at this point. I just hope the coaches see it too.
Well, we'll talk about the injury. Trevor Harris going down in the first half, and I will admit that when I saw him hobbling off the field, I had flashbacks to 2015 with Darian Durant. I was like, please don't let that be, a serious injury. And then, of course, doesn't come out to start the second half. It was Shea Patterson. So it's like, okay, well, this is not good. But he did come out, was on the field with the team. He was throwing around. He was throwing the ball around. He was bouncing around a little bit, actually, too. So figures that with the bye week coming up, and now that we're officially in the bye week, that it was more of a precautionary thing to keep him out for the rest of the game. Obviously, smart choice there by Corey Mace. But with the lead that the Riders had and the way the defense was playing, it was the right call to not push anything. You need Trevor Harris in week 18. You don't need him in week 3.
Yeah, great.
But you especially don't
coaching
need him in
staff.
week 3 with an 18-point lead. Or was it 18 when he went out? Yeah.
Great call by the coaching staff. And when he came out with the knee brace on and he was throwing, I'm like, okay, he looks like he's ready to go back in if they need him. But I'm glad they kept him off. There was no need to put him in another situation. Although hindsight 2020, I had to chuckle though, because when he went down, all of a sudden where we were sitting, all you could hear is this big, "Not again." Jeez.
I mean, what we saw from Shea Patterson this season will go as far as Trevor Harris is going to take us. We need him healthy. We need him healthy later on into the season. I'm impressed that they managed to hold him out. I feel like if the game got a little bit tighter, there was a good chance he'd go in, in the fourth quarter if it was a 1-score game, maybe. But it was good to see him back out there, back running around, moving around. I think Rider Nation had a nice sigh of relief when he was out there on the sidelines.
Now, you mentioned Shea Patterson. That's the other side of this injury. Is he was 4 of 10, a little bit erratic, running around the pocket, running just around, to me, pretty early before he had to, but that's kind of his game. I didn't love what I saw. He was fantastic in the preseason, clearly deserved that number 2 job, but I know you don't expect to go into this game. If you're the backup, you get the number 2 reps. You don't get reps with starters. So I get that, but it was a little bit worrisome for me, to the point where it was, in the third quarter, once the lightning flashed around the stadium, I'm like, please just get to the 7.5 minute mark of the third quarter. Please just get there. We have the lead. And then if the sky wants to open and rain and thunder and lightning all over the place, good, do it. Let's get out of here with a win. Because the way that he was moving around, Shea Patterson, I wasn't happy with it. But it seemed to settle down a little bit in the fourth quarter, but then they started getting the run game going and focused a little bit more on that. So if it comes down to it and Shea Patterson does end up starting next week against Toronto, I'd imagine he's going to get some more reps just as a precautionary thing next week. But I'll have a little bit of concern if that's the case, just based off what I saw this past Sunday.
Oh, I'm certain there's a bunch of people doing the countdown when the weather started turning, making sure that the game was going to be final if it should come to that. But yeah, no, Patterson, yeah, I don't know. I think he's got it. Just he didn't have it this week, and that's where the AJ Ouellette comes in. Because in situations like that, on a young quarterback, you need that running game to take the pressure off him. And AJ, so-called, ran with the ball because he had to. We needed him to in that situation.
And if you look back, his second pass of the game was that deep ball to Stearns that almost resulted in a touchdown. It would have been not a highlight reel throw from Shea Patterson that he'd be putting on his YouTube channel, but still could have been a touchdown. The numbers could have looked better. I like that he gives us that run game as opposed to Trevor Harris, who is your pure pocket passer. But I'm with you, Alex. If he is a legitimate starter for any period of time, it's gonna lend us some concern in Rider Nation.
Well, I do wonder though about the playbook, what was open for him in the second half there when he was playing, because I would have liked to have seen some more shorter passes, quick plays. And it looked like it was a lot of the intermediate stuff that Trevor Harris is used to running. And I don't think that's Shea Patterson's, forte, right? So I would have liked to see, we talked about the receivers. Look who you have in that receiving core. Get the ball to them. Let them make some plays. So I would have liked to have seen some hitches, some screens, just quick slants or something like that. Just ease the pressure and get him confident, get him going, making those easy throws to build up the confidence to make some deeper throws. But all in all, I mean, yeah, he was 4 of 10 or whatever he was, nothing great, but they won. So I'm not going to be too upset about that going into a bye week, which is much needed with the Trevor Harris injury.
And really, the 20 points favors Hamilton.
Yeah, it was 36-14, and it felt like it was probably more than that. Like that.
What helps when you get gifted a touchdown from a command center gaff or a reffing gaff, whichever side you want that on.
How awful. That game went almost 3.5 hours. That was ridiculous. The refs they had no idea what they were doing. They were taking too long to make calls. And when they did make calls, they were ridiculous penalties. Yeah, the team, lowered their penalty count down to 8 for, 87 yards. And none of them were on punt returns. So that was great. But the PI call against the Riders was garbage. The roughing the passer one was more than questionable. And it just it felt like the refs were trying to keep that game close just for a TV audience. Like that's what it felt like. And that wasn't right.
When I said it in our game chat that Tim Croker has replaced Al Bradbury as my most hated ref in the CFL. That was just from start to finish. There was
that rant you had on Al Bradbury though. Bradbury. Oh my goodness.
That'll never make it onto SaskTel Max.
Are you sure Tim Croker's up that high on your list?
After this game, he's working his way up. I don't know if he's at Al Bradbury level, but he's definitely at the top of the list right now. There's just not as much hate for the refs as there was back then. But it felt like from the opening of the game, they couldn't figure life out. There was multiple lengthy delays where we in the stands had no idea what was going on. There was one where suddenly, Hamilton moved up 15 yards and we never heard why. They just first down. Turns out it was a roughing the passer call. And they may have gotten it correct, but there was no explanation. There was just a long delay followed by change. And that was a consistent thing throughout the game, which is why the game ended up lasting 3.5 hours.
Well, to me, that PI was one of the most egregious ones because it was obvious it was deflected at the line, and they went upstairs to double check it. That was PI, and somehow they missed the tip ball in the line of scrimmage. Like, what's the point of having the eye in the sky if the eye in the that was tipped at the line? Like, it was obvious to everybody except for everyone who got to make a call, apparently.
And because it was a third down play, technically it's a potential turnover. It should have been reviewed start to finish by the command center, especially in such a crucial situation late in the game. Yes, the score looked out of reach, but we saw a short kickoff 30 seconds later, and that could have been a football game. It just questionable decisions start to finish.
All right, well, let's jump to the other side of the ball for the Riders, the defense. They were lights out this game. 5 turnovers. We got pressure from the D-line. Charbel DeBeer had 2 sacks. One of them, of course, being that forced fumble, which Hamilton was driving. So they were getting ready to score some points. And all of a sudden the Riders take the ball away. And that's a big swing in momentum. And it was such a big play. I'm quite happy with what I saw from the D-line this game. I wish I could have seen, a couple more sacks, hit the quarterback a little bit more, but they got pressure and forced Bo into some really bad throws. And he was missing guys. I mean, look at that last interception, like on the run when you're able to throw like that. And the receiver was open there for a little bit, and to force an underthrow by 10 yards at least was great to see. But it's just, to me, it's just the next step, especially from the interior of this defense. They were getting a lot of pressure on the inside.
Like, Bo missed actually, even early in the game, Bo missed a lot of receivers that were wide open. Like, I don't know if it was a missed route or, Tim White, but I was about to get to that one too. But like, he just seems off with especially his younger receivers. Tim White, he's forcing it to Tim White. And Tim, like, when you hold a so-called top 3 CFL receiver, 1,000-yard receiver to 0 catches, and you hold a top 3 last year running back to 10 yards, your defense is doing something really, really right. And if that defense can keep that up, Trevor Harris is going to have a great season because there's going to be no pressure on him. He just needs to play his game and not worry about coming from behind all the time.
I realize the score probably had a lot to play into why they didn't run the ball very much, but I think we see what the first 2 games and the complete demolition of a D-line run stopping did to Hamilton's game plan. They ended up rushing the ball 9 times for, 27 yards, something like that, and Bo Levi Mitchell was your leading rusher.
Yeah,
they went to the pass, and Bo Levi Mitchell couldn't do it. We went back to 2023 Bo Levi Mitchell. He was playing head and shoulders above what he's been doing lately. He came back down to earth. A lot of it was pressure, but he helped us out a bunch too.
And you can say what you want about the strength of the Riders' opposition so far this year, obviously not having a win, but look at those running backs that they've gone up against. Kevin Brown, very solid in Edmonton, had 30-something yards. And James Butler back-to-back, one of the top guys in the league. Absolutely nothing again. What was it, 10 yards this week? Yep. Like, just, they're not even trying to run the ball. Yeah, the Riders have, clearly some weaknesses in the secondary, and you can exploit their zone defense a little bit. But to completely abandon a run game like that is, I know you get down 17-0. You got to try and air the ball out and get some quick scores, but to completely take out one full phase of the game is just unbelievable. The D-line has been unbelievable run blocking. The linebackers are playing out or not run blocking, but you know what I mean. The other side of it, the defensive side of it.
Run defense. Yeah.
And the linebackers have been phenomenal this year. And they need to get some props as well, too. Thurman's pick six, a fantastic tip by CJ Avery. Again, a pass that was going for Tim White. Avery jumped up, made a great play, tips it right to Thurman. Thurman gets some blocks and takes it in for a house call. This is a ball hawking defense, and I'm loving what I'm seeing so far from that front seven. Again, want to see a little bit more chaos around the quarterback, but they started getting there this week, so they're building.
Well, problem is that when they started getting to the quarterback, they started getting roughing the passer penalties. so maybe getting the quarterback's not a good thing. Like, get near them, but don't touch them. Apparently.
All right. Well, what did you guys think of the secondary this week? Obviously, Marcus Sales got hurt. Scary scene. Just taking that knee to the head, making the tackle. But he was down for quite a while. Hopefully everything's all right. That looked like a definite concussion to me. At least
he got knocked the F out. Like,
Yeah,
he was out.
Yeah, just the way he was coming off the field, you could tell just the look in his eyes. He had no idea where he was there for that second when the camera was on him. So, he before he got hurt, Sales was having a much better game. Pardon me. I think he had the one tip on a play on the Fields interception. I think it was, wasn't it?
Yes, it was.
Yep. So he had a much better game. You can tell he had that extra week of practice and an extra week around the guys to figure out what they're doing on defense. Still a few breakdowns in the secondary, but overall much better.
I hate to say it because he got hurt, but Lacombo still looks better in that position. Lacombo is a beast at cornerback. They need to keep him out there.
I don't mind Lacombo at safety, but corner is that's where he should be. That's his strength. I'm curious what they do. Maybe you wait until Jackson Ford's ready to go, because clearly they're not really ready to step up with Jaden Dahlke as the starting safety right now. They did just out of necessity after Sales got hurt, but maybe when Jackson Ford's ready, Jackson Ford's the safety, you shift the combo out, and then who knows what happens to the other guys on the line, because you still have Rodney Clemens, you still have Amari Henderson, and Antoine Brooks Jr. is on the PR as well too. So they have some good defensive backs that still aren't even hitting the field yet. So,
and once again, know who doesn't have to worry about his job? Roland Milligan, because that dude is a beast.
On special teams again as well too. He's everywhere. That guy is a stud.
I think we can just clip this part of the show and just cut to it every episode, because all he does is make plays, and all he's done since his Rider career started is make plays game after game. I don't think we can, what's the term? I don't think we can tout him enough. He is the straw that stirs the drink on that Rider defense, and we're going to see it week after week after week after week.
If we did that would be our second most played video.
And also, thank you for being such a big supporter and fan of the CFL and myself personally.
He wasn't the peak performer this week. I was a little bit disappointed, even though he had all those touchdowns for Winnipeg.
This is a notice to the CFL family. Never tell people the things you don't like. Ever, ever, ever.
I like everything.
So do I.
Apparently, except for the Edmonton Oilers. But anyway, overall, your guys' takes from this game, because I was quite happy with what I saw. That score flattered Hamilton. The offense was rolling, especially with Harris in there, and the defense, other than giving up a few plays, overall was a very, very big positive for me.
They played a full 60 minutes of football, or close enough to it. Yes, we technically got outscored in the second quarter. That was a full start to finish game of football. They came out flying and didn't quit until the final whistle. If we see that type of game plan and execution out of this team is going to go a long way.
And once again, kudos to the play calling on both sides of the ball, defense and offense. The coaches are pulling out the right things to what to do, and I'm excited about this team. Yes, you can only play who they put in front of you, and we got Edmonton and Hamilton right off the hop. The game against the Argos is probably going to be a real test of what this team actually is, but I think this team can play with everyone in the league right now, just based on the way the other games are going. Montreal is obviously head and shoulders above everyone right now. They're definitely cooking with propane. So I'm very curious on how high this team can get if they can just clean up that little stuff.
Well, that 4-game stretch right after the bye week, because you have Toronto at home, you're in BC, you come back home to face Winnipeg, who I'm assuming is going to turn it around. I'm going to keep saying that in the hopes that I jinx it, because my picks have been awful this year. So I'm going to keep picking Winnipeg just for that reason. And then in Montreal after that, which is notoriously a
bad game for the Riders.
Bad game for the Riders. So these 4 games coming up in July, we're going to find out what this team really is, in my mind. And even if they go, I don't want to say 1-3, but 2-2 in that stretch, but those, all the games are close and they're in them, then I think we'll have a really good understanding of exactly what this team is. Because right off the bat, with a 3-0 record, I don't want to say it's giving off full 2007 vibes, but I just feel there's something special there with what they have, with a veteran quarterback, with a first-time head coach, with we
got from Toronto.
Yeah. There's a lot of vets on the team. The D-line in 2007 the pass rushing was unbelievable. So there's that difference, I guess. But
they could get there.
The receiving group that the team has, there's something there. I'm not saying that they're on par with them, but there just feels like there's something there, and I haven't felt like that in a while, and it just gives me these weird 2007 vibes.
We're not quite at plan the parade stage yet, but maybe make sure you know where the maps are, so we can figure where we might.
We've already talked about this, Steve. We know the route.
Preseason. Yeah,
yeah, we know the route. It's literally marked already. But no, the best thing about this team, you feel potential. It's not, okay, we need to wait till next year where we can get a quarterback that can do or we need to get rid of some of these contracts and this guy needs no, we actually have a good base to move this team on. We no longer have to worry about coaching. We no longer need to worry about we don't have a quarterback or we don't have the receiving core. We have a solid team that if they can put it together for 60 minutes, could probably beat anyone in this league. Will they all the time? No, they're going to make mistakes. That's easy. That's football.
Yep.
But the potential is there to actually win games, which is great. I don't have to worry about hearing about guys filling out recipe cards telling us their strengths this year.
Well, they're including the preseason. They're 5-0. They haven't lost with Corey Mace. They haven't lost with Dave Thomas as the voice of the Riders. So I'm just saying, these are the facts.
Quit taking my shtick.
If this is anyone else other than Steve Allen. But I'm just saying, those are the facts. This team hasn't lost with Corey Mace, including the preseason. And those were, the first game against Winnipeg, they beat the crap out of them. But that game in Edmonton, obviously, with our backups against their starters, they still found a way to do it. And it just seems like they're learning how to win. And they haven't even come close so far in these 3 regular season games to playing a full game. This one against Hamilton here this past week was the closest that we've seen so far. But I like that it's just gradually getting better and better and better. And it has me expecting that now. So,
and they actually gave Corey Mace a true Gatorade shower this week.
Yeah,
they finally got him.
They had to take him to the ground, apparently.
I was going to say, while he was on the ground, couldn't get away from it. Great photo, though, that the Riders took and posted of Schaefer Baker dumping the Gatorade on Mace while he's on the ground. So I think they posted that on their socials. It was a fantastic picture. We didn't talk about this last week. Got to bring it up. We missed talking about Brett Lothar last week and how excellent he was. I know he had the missed kick this week into that
I don't
wind.
blame him for that one. Did you see the wind take that thing?
That ball just kind of just stopped.
Well,
So-
it went the opposite way. Like if you actually watch the shot from the end zone,
Yeah.
it starts all the way and just goes. And it's like, wow.
Clearly, it was a chipped ball. That's the only
Yeah.
reason you miss kicks
Yeah.
in the CFL. Is that
Clearly.
Sergio?
So he gets the benefit of the doubt on that kick. But otherwise, he's been money this year. And I know I had the concerns in the preseason, just like I did last year. But once he gets going, he's the best kicker in the league. And we saw that. I mean, we saw that last year too. Started out a little bit slow, but once he got going, he's money. So we missed saying that last week. Got to say it this week. Brett Lothar. Oh, he's back. He's so back.
That's my effing kicker.
So for this game, give me your star of the game, guys.
Oof. Steve, you go first.
Are we doing just one star of the game,
Just
or
one.
offensive and defensive? Ooh.
No, just one.
You know, I'm gonna give it to CJ Avery. He's getting that Piffles bump.
You got
I
the
think he had
Piffles bump.
5 tackles. He had the
thing.
tip on the pick 6 to Jameer Thurman. He just looks like a guy who's going to be out there making plays game after game. So he's my pick today.
I'll go offense. Trevor Harris. This team, he's like we said, this team is going to go as far as he can take us. That knee injury definitely showed that Rider fans need to pray every day for the health of Trevor Harris, because it's definitely different. His timing is great this year. He's actually, we always used to joke about how Trevor Harris is great between the 20s. But he's shown once he gets the red zone, he can make stuff work. So, yeah, Trevor Harris is probably going to be our MOP this year if he keeps this up.
Yeah, most likely. Mine for this game is Charbel DeBeer. I thought he was fantastic, getting pressure consistently throughout the game. 2 sacks, the forced fumble there, which was, I don't want to say game-changing play, but it definitely made a big impact on the game with Hamilton driving. So DeBeer gets my player of the game this week. And Steve, since you mentioned CJ Avery, check out interview I had with him. Shout out to Ariel with the Riders for setting that interview up last week. 15 minutes I was able to get with CJ Avery, just learning a little bit about him. What I've learned is that he's super humble. He just wants to come out and play his best ball, and all the credit goes everywhere else. He wasn't taking any credit for himself. It was all about linebacker coach JC Sherritt. It was about Corey Mace. It was about Jameer Thurman beside him. So he was quick to give praise to those guys. So if you get a chance, it's on YouTube. It's on the wherever you download your podcast. Interview with CJ Avery there, and check that out.
He's going to be one of those players that's not going to be in the CFL long, I don't think. I think he's going to be here a year, maybe 2, and some NFL team is going to kick the tires on him at some point, because he seems to be the complete package and have the right mindset and head on his shoulders.
And thank you, Montreal, for signing him in January and then cutting him in March. Not even bringing him to training camp. And then in April is when the Riders signed him. So,
Danny
literally-
Machocha, you idiot.
yeah, I mean, Montreal's
I know. I hate
doing
giving
okay.
Danny Machocha credit, but he's actually done a pretty good job minus that.
yeah. But helping us out there, getting CJ Avery, letting him become available. He just looks so good in Rider green.
He does.
And Riders, if there's anybody that you want to get that Piffles bump for the next game, just let Ariel know who to send our way. We'll make sure they have a great game.
Absolutely. Well, there's the opening kickoff presented by Kathy Festian of Royal LePage Regina Realty. Let's jump to our Churchill Brewing Company odds and end zones. It wasn't 55 minutes this week for the opening kickoff, so
Hey, it's a speed episode.
yeah.
Slow down.
Other games last week around the CFL. I want to. Normally, we go in order of the games. I want to jump to the second game of the week and just say,
Of course you do.
Winnipeg sucks. 0-3. This is a weird thing as sports fans, and I find this with a lot of sports fans. It's not just me. I think I take more pleasure in seeing teams lose that I want to see lose than seeing my team win. Because to me, I always like seeing the Calgary Stampeders lose. When they had Henry Briss,
I agree. But I think it also depends on how they lose. Like Winnipeg has looked really bad. It's one thing if Winnipeg loses a tight battle to BC. It's another to throw everything you have, including the kitchen sink, at them and still lose. Like
Winnipeg played that game against BC desperate. They could not fall to 0-3, especially, two of those at home. Like that was like that. They couldn't do that. I mean, granted, that's what they did, but that was the mindset. Like we can't lose this game. We have to pull out all the stops. And they were throwing passes to Chris Streveler, who can't catch. Apparently, we learned that this past week.
He can catch as well as he can throw.
But they threw everything at BC, and in the first half, they were pretty much getting run out of the place again. There was boo birds at the end of the first half when they walked off the field. And this is a place where Winnipeg's done a lot of winning over the last 4 years. They find a way to win at home, and they did everything they could, and they couldn't do it, and that makes me happy.
And don't get me wrong, it was a close game. It was still 26-24. Like Winnipeg was in it to the very end, especially when you have a kicker like Sergio. Like there was a good shot they could have won that game. But when you're legit rolling out Chris Streveler there on the regular in a 2-quarterback system instead of actually putting another receiver out there after Schoen got hurt, like that tells you either one thing about their depth or they were super desperate to try to win this game.
Well, I think Streveler was out there specifically out of necessity at that point, because I know if I remember hearing on the radio broadcast, he actually did play receiver back in high school, as most of these guys probably did. But when you look at losing, first they lose Kenny Lawler week 1. Now they've lost Dalton Schoen. Is it Carrick Wheatfall?
Yeah, yep. Lawler's replacement, actually. He
right,
got
like
hurt in this one too.
They are, and they're losing these guys long term. We're not talking about, we lost Bain for a half of football. These are 6-game injuries. So not only have they started out the season 0-3, but they're now down to their 4th, 5th, 6th depth receivers. Zach Caleros is 3 games in and he still hasn't thrown a touchdown pass. I mean, it doesn't help that he's down to his 4th, 5th, 6th string receivers, but I
would like to point out that's his
hurt.
5th game that counts. He hasn't thrown one since, including playoffs.
All the playoffs last year and 3 games. I'm waiting to hear back from Rob Vanstone about what the CFL record is for most games to start a season without a touchdown pass, because this is the CFL. This is a passing league,
and this is the number 1 player in the CFL apparently.
Yeah, I think he's fallen down that list if they redid it.
Big time.
Winnipeg had 6 receivers targeted. Only 4 of them made catches. And that was Chris Streveler and Bailey Feltmate were the 2 that didn't make a catch.
I think it comes down to the fact that as an offensive line, they have gotten substantially worse. Zach Caleros doesn't have any time back there. He's not comfortable back there. And he's got those happy feet again.
How happy I am that they signed Eric Lofton. We here in Saskatchewan know all too well how bad Eric Lofton is at right tackle. We saw that last year.
Mm-hmm.
I don't care what the price difference is, to basically swap him for Yoshi Hardrick. I don't care what it costs. That's a big win. And to have him struggle, or Lofton struggle in Winnipeg, which I knew was going to happen, is worth everything to me in that trade-off. So
I'm pretty sure Piffles chat was when we signed Yoshi and they signed Lofton, I think it was just a constant thread of laughter between the 3 of us.
Yeah, it was literally just ha ha ha, LOL, LOL, LOL.
Yeah.
I remember posting about I remember posting about the Lofton signing and how funny I thought it was. And I think it was Derek Dennis who replied back saying, just wait. He's going to surprise you, basically, that Lofton was going to be good in the Winnipeg system.
But here's the problem. Here's the problem with Winnipeg, though. It's not just Lofton that's the issue on that offensive line. It's the entire team. The entire team got old. Like, they're tying onions on their belt. That's how old they are.
That was the style at the time. I said that I was getting 2007 vibes from the Riders. I'm getting big time 2011 Rider vibes with this Winnipeg team, a team that got to back-to-back Grey Cups and lost and didn't change the core. They kept the same guys and got older and older and older and not better. And that's exactly what happened in 2011 here. And
well, that's what
I'm seeing there. And it looks good on them. I'll just say that. It looks good.
That's what always made Wally Buono as good as he was. He knew how to cut a guy a year too early versus a year too late. And it looks like O'Shea doesn't have that same eye for the age line because they have gotten older and it's noticeable.
It's too much loyalty. We see that all the time in sports.
I love Stanley Bryant. I love Patty Neufeld, but they are old for football players. And then when you got Lofton on the outside, like, good luck. And
flip it on to their defense. Willie Jefferson hasn't done anything. Not that he's been
he's,
bad.
He's missing Jeffcoat. He is missing Jeffcoat so badly.
Yep. Anyway,
and Jeffcoat retired because Winnipeg dicked him around.
Yeah. They spent their money on Willie
Good
J
job.
instead. So.
Good job.
Anyway, it looks good on Winnipeg to be 0-3. When you look at the standings on CFL.ca and you see the Riders way up at the top and then the Bombers all the way down at the bottom, it's just, how can you not be happy right now?
Poetry.
Elsewhere in the CFL, Ottawa and Montreal, that was a complete blowout. Montreal was up 30-1 at the half, which again flattered Ottawa. That was as big of a domination as you'll ever see in pro football, that first half. But Fajardo, he's back to his 2019 ways for now. His deep ball has been phenomenal. And Tyson Philpott is unreal right now. This is a guy that they need to keep pumping out interviews with him, put him in commercials, make him a star, because he's having that explosion right now. And they need to capitalize on that.
Honestly, he's the unquestioned number one receiver to me in the league right now. He's just untouchable. And it seems like every week you think, okay, this is the week you don't pick him in fantasy because he's not going to do it again. And they just go and do it again. And you know it's going to him. You just can't stop it.
On a side note, though, it was good to see Montreal with a full barn, though. Like,
oh yeah,
it's good to see Montreal football back being a place to go, because it was pretty sketchy there for a while.
Winning does magical things in football, at least here in the CFL. Now that game, that was the first one with the augmented game broadcasts with Genius Sports putting out stats on the screen of how fast guys are running. And what did you guys think of that?
I think it's a cool trick. I enjoy the nerdiness of it. I think it can get a little busy at times, but I would rather see it sprinkled in through all broadcasts. But definitely don't hate it.
I'm with you. I'd rather see it as a specialty thing during a broadcast that I'm already watching, as opposed to watching 60 minutes of it. I think it's a cool concept. I like the science and the numbers behind things, so that's fun as an IT nerd. It's neat to see it. I just don't know that I could tune into it for any extended length of time.
I still like my idea of having it off to the side and just like running like real-time stats as the game goes on. Keep it kind of out of the way while you can still watch the game, but it's definitely fun to watch.
I did like pre-snap when they showed where, all the receivers and the running backs were, who was where, showing their names above the player. So I like seeing that. I don't like seeing their name highlighted when they catch the ball and they're running with the ball or anything like that. But it's pretty cool. I like that they showed the routes that are run by the receivers. I'd much rather see that than to see the analysts put their little weird
little pen in the
route.
circles.
I don't
Yeah.
know. I missed the John Madden telestrator with the sound effects and the
He was actually
booms
good at it though.
He was very good at it.
Anyway, it was a pretty cool concept, and I don't know, I just like seeing it. And finally, Edmonton at Toronto last week. Game of the year so far. 39-36 for Toronto. Fantastic game back and forth. But for Edmonton, still, they're so close. They are the 2017 Saskatchewan Roughriders in that sense, that once they get a win or two, they'll start rolling. But I sent this question to our friends over at the Turf District podcast, the Edmonton podcast. Is it time to just end the Chris Jones experiment? Because close is great and all when you're doing a complete rebuild, but 2 wins at home in 2+ years, 8 wins total, you're still losing games, and the game is all about winning. And if you're not doing it with Chris Jones, I know he's kind of handcuffed them in the sense that he's the GM and head coach, and they're kind of screwed with him for the rest of this year until his contract's off the books. But I don't know. If I'm Edmonton and I'm their fans, I've had enough. Start winning games. And they're clearly not doing that with Chris Jones.
I think, talking to a few Elks fans, I think there's a lot of fans on that bandwagon right now. Like, yeah, they appreciate the things that Chris Jones has done. And Chris Jones has brought in some decent players, and he still has a knack of finding rough talent that he could round the edges on. But he also makes decisions that is hindering the team. Like, Trey Ford was winning them games last year. And so he goes and gets McLeod Bethel-Thompson, who is technically an upgrade, so to speak, but still not winning games. Like, try something different, because MBT ain't getting you there. But Chris Jones won't.
I don't think that there's much of a concern in the cost of getting rid of him. They've already got his successor at GM in G. Roy Simon lined up and ready to go. Promote somebody, but for the love of God, if you promote somebody, don't make it the special teams coordinator if you let him go. We've seen that. It does not work well. But honestly, this experiment has to end.
It'll get you a goalpost. It'll get you a goalpost away from a Grey Cup berth.
I'm pretty sure Edmonton fans would take a West Final berth right now. But when you're talking about less than double-digit wins in now 3 seasons or 2.5 seasons, that's not acceptable in the CFL. You need a year to turn a team around. They're on year 3. I feel bad for Elks fans. They really need that success to help kind of turn, because that stadium is lifeless right now, which is not a positive thing. And they're going through an ownership change on top of it. I think we won't see anything. What's that?
And maybe that's what they need to get figured out first. Maybe the ownership change is the catalyst that does this. My concern is you're going to have an ownership change, and they're going to go, oh, Chris Jones. Like, if they don't know anything, it's like, oh, Chris Jones, winning head coach, which he's not, but I digress. But that's apparently the rumor around. I don't know how he got that legacy, but it's
Michael Riley.
Yeah, like they need to. They need to move on from Chris Jones, because at this point, the juice ain't worth the squeeze. He should go back to coaching his dream job of high school kids, I guess.
Until that gives out. But the according to Dave Naylor, the Elks, he's expecting the Elks to have a private owner in place this season. So he thinks it'll be done before the season ends. So, we didn't talk about it last week. Greg, do you want to do it this week? Do you want to talk about the signs up on the sidelines being held up?
Signs, everywhere the signs, blocking out the huddles, blowing people's minds.
They ruined my experience from the Havana Platinum area because the Riders held up their own signs sideways. The logo was sideways.
Yes. Did you guys see? Oh, speaking of logos, did you notice that the one kickoff kid's, or not the kickoff kid, the kid captain's flag was upside down?
The flag was upside down. Yeah.
Strong Toronto Blue Jays 92 vibes on that one.
This is why you only have one flag, because apparently if you rush to make a second flag, that you put it on upside down. But this entire thing about signs is getting ridiculous.
So it's these big giant cards that players are holding up, or coaches, assistant coaches are holding up, so that the players, usually on defense, know where to look for the play call from the coordinator or whichever coach is giving them the play call on the sidelines. So I've seen quite a few people actually complain about this, mainly Winnipeg fans.
Because it blocks their view of the huddles, because real fans want to see everything.
They're sitting in row 1 right behind the bench, which personally I feel is an awful place to sit, because I like seeing the field, your depth of perception. You can't even see the other sideline because the fields are slanted just a little bit, right?
Yeah.
For drainage,
runoff.
right?
Yeah, probably. Yeah, possibly. Yeah.
And they can't see pre-snap the huddle where all the guys are just standing in a circle. Because these big giant cards are in the way. So this isn't new. This has been around since ever.
Winnipeg, the first team I remember having was Winnipeg, because Michael Bishop couldn't remember the signals. So they had those they had that stupid whiteboard with pictures on it, so they could put it in the calls.
But you see this all the time in college football, NCAA. It's huge there. You'll always see it on every single broadcast. It's nothing new. But why? I don't understand this big complaint about it, because if you're that worried about watching the huddle pre-snap, now if it was in your way when they're lining up in the formation, I can understand the frustration in that. But also, you chose to sit in row 1 where you don't really see anything. Cool, you can hear the players talk on the sideline. Pro, con, you don't get to see the field. So
there's two simple solutions to this. You can do what Hamilton does, where their defensive coaches wear red jackets, so they're very easy to spot on the sideline. So they wear a contrasting color that is going to be easy to pick out. Or 2, have the defensive players have the radio in their helmets like the offensive players do.
There's a third solution to this.
Quit complaining.
Fans could stop being such crybabies about it. This isn't new. This isn't that big a deal. They're not blocking your game. Stop whining. You're only mad because your team sucks at football. It's fun to be able to say that again after the last few years, but they really, really do suck at football.
Steve, you're reaching 2013 levels of unbearable.
Good. I hope so. I've had to put up with 4 years of 2013 level unbearable.
Hey, that's a dynasty in Winnipeg.
Well, if somehow they make a miracle happen and make it to a Grey Cup and win it, and I hear one Bomber fan say they're a dynasty because they won 3 in 5 years. First of all, they've won 3 in 6. One of those years was canceled. Bite me. Second of all, I hope a random kid comes and crotch chops them in the nuts. They are not a dynasty. You're starting fresh. Win a game before I hear the word dynasty out of that fan base again.
I promise you, I will schedule a tweet or Zeet or X post or whatever the heck they call them these days. If they lose this week, I am tweeting out, so how about that dynasty, and just let the chaos reign.
And RIP your mentions.
No,
You
no,
might
they
even
don't.
get
They won't complain. They'll just block.
You
There's
might
a
even
reason
get a
why I'm
free
blocked by
follow.
mostly Bombers fans.
I always love just I'm like, why am I? Oh, Bomber fan. Okay, that makes sense. Now.
I understand why they do it. I've been
Yeah.
relentless for the last week and a half. Not stopping anytime soon. The good fans know that I'm just messing around. The bad fans think I'm a jerk, and good. I don't need you on my timeline anyways.
They both can be right. You know that, right?
They both are right.
Well, let's jump to our picks then, including Winnipeg, who I already said I'm going to pick for the greater good because of how awful my picks are. I had a really good week. I was 2-2 last week. For me, that's a really good week, which brings me to 3-9 on the year. Actually, I think my math might be off. I might have 4. I don't remember. I'd have to go back and look. Anyway, awful. I'm awful at picks, at least against the spread. Greg, you had a good week. You were 3-1, so you're leading the way at 5-7.
And the only one I got wrong is because Ottawa suckered me into thinking they were actually something better than what they were.
That just shows you that Winnipeg was that bad.
Yeah.
All right. Well, let's put our excellent 3-9, 4-8, and 5-7 records up here, and let's get to our Piffles picks.
Oh, I'm actually using this. All right. What's that?
Yeah, you can if you want.
Piffles Picks.
Well, folks, when you're right 52% of the time, you're wrong 48% of the time.
That's funny. You really actually used it. I made it, and I find that hilarious. Okay.
So you're gonna get our shoe in of the week. You're gonna get our lock of the week. Those are all
I
coming
was
right
literally
now.
looking for a giant
Yikes.
lock. I could not find a lock big enough to be funny.
So let me just open this up. Let's get to our picks here. All right, first game of the week. We have Edmonton at BC, and I'm going to guess that it's BC favored by 9.
7.5. BC
8. Solid 8 for BC.
Give me BC to cover.
I like BC
Yeah.
to cover. However, I want to point out there's places where you can actually get BC as low as 3.5.
Well, if you're on that site, throw everything on that.
Yeah, take that immediately. I'm going to take
That's
Edmonton with the points.
plus 8.
Sorry, I'm going to take BC,
Edmonton
but not
money
to
line.
cover the spread.
Uh,
Yeah. Yeah, I don't think BC covers that.
So, so you're taking Edmonton.
You're taking Edmonton.
8.
Yeah.
Interesting. Okay.
All right. Game 2 on Friday night could be game of the week for sure. Possibly game of the year. Just looking at these two teams right now. Montreal at Toronto. I can say it's Montreal by 4.
I'm going to go Montreal 1.5.
1.5.
All right. Give me I think Toronto wins this one. So I'll take Toronto.
Yeah, I got to go Toronto on this one. I think they're the better team. Long-term.
There are places. This line is wild. You can get Toronto as high as a +9 underdog. So there's
Wow.
easy money. I believe in Cody Fajardo, so I am taking Montreal to cover that very small 1.5.
Game 3, Winnipeg at Calgary.
These lines this week are wild. I am sorry. I just saw the other two lines right now. Holy crap. Okay, go ahead.
Okay,
I've heard that. Oh, go ahead.
No, go ahead, Steve.
No, because I might influence your pick with what I was about to say.
I was gonna say I'm gonna say if it's wild, like what Greg is saying, I'm gonna say it's like Calgary by 2.
No, sorry. The movement on these lines have been wild. Sorry.
Oh, okay.
Where they opened is fairly what I would say.
Okay, well I'm changing that to Winnipeg by 3.
See, and I don't understand how Winnipeg is favored in this football game, but I had heard that they were favored. I'm going to go by 2.5.
Winnipeg open as -5.
Wow.
Have they watched that team play football?
And with the injuries they have, like I might take Calgary plus the points.
Are you?
Yeah.
I probably am because you know what? You can also get them at +9. Like just wild movement on the lines this week.
+9, I'd take Calgary for sure.
Yeah.
I'm taking
I'm
Calgary
taking
straight up.
+5. I'm taking Calgary like +5 easily.
And because it's worked so well for me so far this season, I'm taking Winnipeg.
Taking Winnipeg,
Damn straight, because I know I'm going to be wrong on that one. So for the greater good, I'm taking Winnipeg to cover that.
Enjoy your 3-1.
Thank you. And Hamilton at Ottawa to round things out on Sunday. Geez, after how Ottawa played last week, I have no idea. Ottawa -4.
I don't. This feels like the toilet bowl to me. I thought Ottawa had potential, and then last week happened. Ottawa by 2.
Ottawa opened -7. There are places where you can now get them +4.5, 11.5 point swing.
Wow.
That's why I'm like, what just happened?
Wow.
This is what happens when there's no legitimate reason to pick either team to win a football game.
Okay, well, give me the Ticats if it's what we're saying, -7 here then. Yeah, give me the Ticats.
Yeah, Hamilton. Yeah, Hamilton +7.
Yeah,
I'm
taking
Hamilton
yeah.
+7. Like, I'm not going to game 3 my way through this one. Ottawa looks bad. Hamilton looks bad, but I think Hamilton can stay within 7 points.
I'm going to go on the opposite side just because I want to make up a game, and I'm going to say Ottawa wins, or at least loses by less.
They ain't winning by more than 7. I'm telling you that.
Oh, wait, they have to win by 7. Oh God.
Yeah, this isn't just picks, man. This is
I know.
spread.
I had it the other way in my head. I thought Hamilton was favored in my brain. God, nobody's winning. No fan is winning. Yeah, I'll take Hamilton. That's too big of a spread.
Yeah, there are no victors here.
Other than whoever actually does win that picks up a game on Winnipeg. It could be in a crossover race. Who knows? If Edmonton never wins another game, who knows? Which is a very real possibility.
Very real possibility. Like Winnipeg is in for some hard sledding. They're already on, like we said, they're like 5th string receiver. They are in a lot of trouble, and apparently they have not called Lucky Whitehead yet. They brought in a guy they cut in the preseason. So
yeah. Well, when you're rolling with, and I have nothing against Nick Dembski and Drew Wolodarski. I like them. They've had some really solid seasons in the past, but when that's your 1 and 2, I think there's problems.
And I love Nick Dembski. He's sneaky good. Like I always crack the jokes about him never being a 1,000-yard receiver when he finally did it, but it's just, yeah, like he'll make a catch that he shouldn't make. But yeah, when they're 1 and 2, you're right. It's going to be hard sledding for Bombers going forward, especially when you got Zach Collaros, who's not that good this year.
I don't want to say I'm cheering for Calgary, but I wouldn't be upset if they won.
It's hard for Jake.
It's that pick because that'll never get said by me ever again.
Actually, I was hoping you would say something nice about Jake Mayer.
He's not as horrible as he was last year.
It's going to be hard to like I said in our power ranking. It's hard to be proven a fraud when you're on a bye week.
Okay, well,
70% of passes. Like what?
He is playing pretty decent this year. His receivers are a big step up from last year. Just like last week, I'll say still not the best, Danny Austin, but they're a lot better this year than they were last year. And I will say this about Jake Mayer: that old Jake Mayer, he ain't what he used to be. Ain't what he used to be. With
the crazy old man dancers.
Yep. I'm not dropping trout for that though. Sorry, guys.
You can't drop trout if you're not wearing any.
That's why we shoot the video from here up.
For the chest up. Yep.
And let's
And
end the
we
show
have
right there
jumped the
because
shark.
it cannot get any worse than that. Enjoy the bye week. And Canada Day long weekend. So if you have the long weekend, hopefully the weather holds up and it's nice for you guys to go out and enjoy. So next week we'll be back with a preview of the Argos game, and I think Steve, you might be gone next week.
I will be gone. I will.
We got to call
We'll
up
have to-
replacement Steve.
We'll have to bring my lookalike.
Jeff, be prepared.
You're
This
gonna
is
get
your
a
warning because I know you're listening.
Yeah, I'm texting you in a couple days, Jeff. All right, we'll figure out a time.
Do me proud, Jeff. I have faith in you.
But until then, we'll leave it there. Piffles Podcast brought to you by our great friends at Dairy Queen on Elphinstone Street and Sass Drive in Regina. Special thanks, of course, to Kathy Festian of Royal LePage Regina Realty and Churchill Brewing Company for their support, making this show possible. Thanks for watching on SaskTel Max, on YouTube, and downloading wherever you get your podcasts, except for Google Podcasts. So sorry for you, Greg.
I almost want to start singing Boys to Men, but I don't remember the lyrics.
Well, you can sing Tyler Gilbert. This is Ghost Behind Your Mind.